Hey there, good morning. Welcome back to Dealing with the Howards. It's Tom and Kathryn here, and we've got some really exciting information about rebranding. We get a lot of questions about should I rebrand, or I love my brand, or is it gonna build value in my company if I rebrand?
Yeah, and sometimes talk too about like if you're doing a tuck-in or buying a company somewhere, is it worth rebranding them to the same brand you have or keeping the brand separate, that kind of thing.
So for novice viewers, the tuck-in, a fold-in means that you're acquiring an outside company and you're either going to leave them as themselves with their current brand, or you're going to tuck/fold them in and call them your own.
Yeah. Pull them into your own business in your same area kind of thing.
Same area. Okay.
So, yeah, now we get these questions a lot. First of all, talking about rebranding and what branding does for you. Because people say, well, my trucks look good enough, blah, blah, and my truck looks really cool. And quite frankly, most of the brands I see out there, especially in air conditioning, it's always like a blue and red circle around a name, which is what Lee's used to be, by the way. And that was the idea I came up with years ago, before we had Kick Charge Marketing redo ours, which is great. Came out great.
Do you have questions about this? Kick Charge has a book out, Branded Not Blanded. It's really great information if you want to take a deep dive.
Yeah, that was Dana telling you. And that was pretty cool. In addition to that, people say, well, it's good enough. And, people say they see my trucks everywhere. Sure they do, right? The problem is that you don't know. I mean, if 10 people came up and said they see your trucks everywhere, and you have a pretty bland brand, like a white truck, blue and red circle, whatever, if you're in air conditioning, or if you've got like a half a sun and half a snowflake kind of thing, and that kind of stuff, it's just what you're doing is, yes, the people that have used you a lot are going to recognize who you are, but people that haven't used you before and are just driving on the road, they're not going to recognize your truck from some other truck. And the truth of the matter is that you're basically advertising for the air conditioning and plumbing industry, not for your company. And they're not, honestly, if they see your truck from a mile away, they're going to say, oh, that's an air conditioning truck. They're not going to say, oh, that's Johnny's Heating and Air or, Sally's Plumbing or whatever, because it just doesn't stand out enough.
I think the average consumer doesn't even know it's an air conditioning truck. They know it's some sort of service vehicle.
Yeah, it's a trades vehicle.
But they don't know if it's windows, roofing, siding, air conditioning, house cleaning, landscaping. Could be anything. Could be a mobile car wash.
It's a white truck with ladders on the roof.
Yeah, that's what they
Everyone always defends their brand. And
that's not a brand.
Frankly, yeah. So when we're looking at this, one of the things that we noticed is that we completely rebranded, and you can see our trucks from a mile away because it's got this. I hated the way our brand looked when Dan first brought it to me. It looked like a poop green kind of color with navy blue. He looked in our area to see what our competitors were offering and stuff like that. It had to be something totally different. And I thought, oh my gosh, that looks terrible. But the truth is now I really love it. But because it was made the way it was, the intent in any branding is to be able to see it from a mile away and immediately recognize what the brand is.
Yeah.
UPS does a great job. UPS, everyone knows when you see a brown truck, it's UPS.
Yep.
Right? And the truth is that when you do that, it's like, oh my gosh, UPS literally owned the name Brown.
Yep.
In the sense, on one of their commercials I saw a while ago, they just dropped UPS from it. I mean, it said UPS on the commercial but not verbally. They just had it showed their
screen.
logo. But instead of saying, what can UPS do for you? It was, what can Brown do for you? And I realized, wow, when they're at that point where they said, what can Brown do for you? And everyone knows what that means when you're watching the commercial. It's because they've really, really, they realized, I mean, UPS trucks look ugly. The brown is just, to me, I'm like, oh. But I recognize every time there's a brown truck coming down the road, I know it's UPS. And the brown box looking truck, right? And so they've got to feel that way with your business, that I've seen that vehicle so many times. And by the way, all of my billboards are consistent and my website's consistent. And everything else is consistent. So whenever they see it always just
like
them.
UPS, your uniforms can be consistent.
Yeah. So we talked in a separate episode with host Sway about branding, and it was pretty cool when we were talking about that. But and brand recognition. But when you're looking at your business, you got to know that when everyone told us this, they saw our trucks all the time, we'd say, okay, well, hey, you know, you may think you see our trucks all the time, but once we rebranded, everyone was saying we see your, one guy called me, he's like, you must have tripled your size of your company in the past year because, oh my gosh, now I see you everywhere. And I laughed. I didn't buy a single truck that year. And honestly, going into that summer, we always forecast how many inbound calls we're going to get. And our call center was overloaded with phone calls because there just wasn't enough agents to take the calls. We had triple the amount of phone calls that year. So what branding is supposed to do, we'll keep this short because, like I said, I had another episode with Josue on here talking about marketing and branding and things. But we're going to talk about tuck-ins and whether or not we should do it in just a second. But keep in mind, when you're doing that, when you're looking at branding, the whole point is to get them to recognize you more so that when all your other PPC ads and your GLSA, those get more effective. Your conversion rates go up. That's how you recognize the value of branding. All of your other marketing gets more effective because the brand is better and sticking in people's minds. By the way, if you at all possible and you're renaming your business, don't name it after your last name. I don't even like, I bought the Lee's brand from the family that owned it previously.
Whose last name was Lee's.
Yeah. and that was the thing to do back when they made their company. That was the thing to name it after your, your name, but you want to do it something else that says what you do.
Yep.
And also that sticks out. So it could be like a great example, Redbird Roofing, Chad Peterman and Cristiano's deal. It's a roofing company out of Indiana, I think they're out of. And things like that where you've got a color and an animal. If you have like purple elephant AC, it's like, gosh, that sticks out in your head.
Yeah, Amanda's got grasshopper.
Yeah, grasshopper. I mean, it's something that like is completely different, not even related to air conditioning, sticks out in their brand and keeps going. And do not, under any circumstance, I always get people talking about this at conferences. Yeah, my brand's so cool, blah, 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 blah. Listen, your target audience is Mrs. Jones, ages 35 to 65 years old, homeowner, disposable income of above 100K. Mrs. Jones doesn't like the dog on the side of your van that looks like it could be in a horror movie because you think it's cool. Like, just cut that out. Like, put your ego aside. Get something that like sticks out. Dan's got great, ideas on that one, and he can help you with getting through and coming up with a name that makes sense. That's a great brand. And even in Vegas, when we did the Fetch Attack deal, it was like this really like cute dog on the side of a van. It looked like a little cartoon dog
with great color schemes, and that was what it was really, I think, what brought it in. And that takes a professional brand designer to do that. If you're pulling something off clip art, if you're paying someone who's not a professional brand designer, the color scheme's not going to be correct. It's not going to pop the same way to catch the eye, all of these types of things. And then like Tom mentioned earlier, remaining consistent. So you rebrand and then what? You put the brand up on your vehicles. That's great. You get your uniforms together. That's great. You put up some billboards. That's great. But as you start to synchronize all of these things together, Lee's does it really, really, really well. Of course, I think that Lee's is the best, but that's because I work there right now with that. But we own that market. Everyone knows Lee's. When I run into people in Vegas here from Fresno and I say Lee's Air, everyone knows Lee's. Everyone knows Lee's. We also have a jingle. I was in line one time in Fresno with my Lee's shirt on, and there were at least a dozen other people in line with me, and someone started singing our jingle, and the whole line started singing our jingle, which I thought was really amazing.
Yeah.
And then you can identify those good brands when you go into communities. I was just sharing with you, I was back in Sheboygan, Wisconsin, where I don't know the people who own these companies, but I was in town and I saw some trucks and I saw some billboards, and as soon as I asked, does anyone know who owns Royal Heating and Air? Because they look like they have a good brand. My friends started singing their jingle.
Yeah.
That's a good brand.
And so now let's talk about the point we're getting to this is like when to rebrand. If you're going to go buy a company, let's say you're buying a competitor in your area, or you're going to go to another town and pick up a business. Should you rebrand? Now, a lot of people, and I've done a lesson on this in our lesson section, but the point on this is like when you're looking at doing that, you got to look at a couple of things. One is like, how well is their brand known in an area? If you're doing a tuck-in or a small purchase, almost never, I don't care if they're 2, 3, 5, 10 million in revenue, they almost never have a big enough market share to make a difference. I've got a whole lesson on market calculation. Please go to the lesson and look at the market calculation to figure out how big your market is. And then that will tell you what percentage of the market you actually have. We thought we were huge when we were 10 million in revenue in Fresno. And that's like literally less than 2% market share. And I was like, wow, you know, and we probably could have changed the name and stuff back then and when we did our rebrand, but we ended up not changing the name and we kept it. It's well known in our area now. We're about 50% of how big we could be in Fresno. So we're getting big enough now that it's, you know, you got to be careful about changing those names. But truth of the matter is usually it's super small and it's better to just, if they've got a pretty bad brand, to just rebrand it at that point. Now, also the other thing is there's some companies that no matter how big they are, they want to rebrand it. Now, in those cases, the reason they're doing that is because private equity comes in. And if you can have the consistent branding across all locations, that's at the point where you've had a true, solid, single company. They're definitely willing to buy companies that have multiple locations, that have different brands. They do it all the time. They're getting more and more excited about having one brand now and more consistent on all their operations instead of a bunch of standalones.
Well, the ability to scale is very valuable.
Yeah, having one brand everywhere slows you down on if you want to make changes to that brand. But if you've got your marketing, you only got to do the marketing once. You only have to design stuff like the payouts once for your lead stuff. You only have to design, your handouts. You only have to design your radio commercial once, and you copy paste, and you just knock it out. Now, if you're doing, if it's in your area, I mean, it's probably should be a tuck-in combined together. We had one where we kept 2 brands going down in Visalia for a year and a half?
Yeah, until I got there.
Yeah, we had Comfort Now down there, and then we had Lee's up in Fresno. And once we were able to put the brands together and truly make it just one company, it cut a bunch of staff because now you don't have to have 2 marketing people, you don't have to have 2 service managers, you don't have to 2 blah, blah, blah. Our profitability went way up. We were just so afraid of ripping the Band-Aid off. And then when we finally did, it was like, okay.
And Comfort Now was a good brand. Lee's was just better. So taking Comfort Now and tucking them into Lee's
was
we
bigger
were bigger. You know, the brand was stronger. I mean, Comfort Now was a strong brand though. They had a great customer base.
They're like 8 or 9 million.
And they were in the Visalia area. I work with their customers every day still today. They had a great brand. Lee's we were a little bit stronger. So to make that decision to fold Comfort Now into us, it wasn't something that we took lightly. It was something that you took a lot of time on. You know, it wasn't an easy decision with a snap of a fingers. But at some point in time, we decided approaching these customers as Lee's, rebranding as Lee's, we can cut costs, cut expenses, run a centralized system in Fresno, and we have a very strong brand in this area.
Yeah.
And that's what
it gets
we
very
made the decision.
scary, but it's usually the better thing to do. If you have a really strong brand in one area and it's totally outside your city, it might be, you know, at that point you might just want to keep it separate and keep going. But we found it's much easier, much faster, much more streamlined to just bring it all under one most of the time.
Yeah.
And just, by the way, if you need a rebrand, just pull the trigger, get it done, for crying out loud. I know it's scary, but
sooner than later, every customer that you acquire under the old brand is one that you've lost under the new brand. Don't wait. You're spending more money. Every customer you acquire under your old brand, you're wasting money. Just get it done. Yeah. Get it done and get it done right.
And honestly, you won't lose your customers. You got to remarket to them and send them out a letter saying, hey, this is what we do. But I mean, it's fine. We'll retain almost everybody. Our sales went up after rebranding. I wouldn't get afraid of that. You're going to be fine. Just get it done. And because that brand's going to stick with you for years and years and years to come, you might as well just get it done.
That's actually, we could put in the Learning Center. I have some great experience from the project here in Vegas and my time in Fresno, how to approach these rebrands and these customers when you are tucking in. When you have a company who they've been a customer, like we had a company that we tucked in here in Vegas, and they had been in business like what, 40 years?
Yeah.
So those customers knew their company. It wasn't the brand. They knew the people that work there. They knew the owner of the company. They knew all of that. And we had to come in as brand new, less than 12 months established, and let those customers know, hey, we're your new company. We know we're only a year old and they've been here for 40 years, but they're trusting us. And there is very specific verbiage that we use for that. There's a certain way you need to answer the phone.
All in the lesson on the website.
Yeah.
So.
Did you put it in the lesson already?
Yeah.
Okay. How we answer the phone and all of that, because approaching those customers, and then the marketing strategies that we do with the letters and the calls and the emails, and bringing the brand awareness that we're switching over, I think is critical.
Yeah. Well, just if at all possible, try to get that rebrand done, try to bring it under one roof, and make things happen. Enjoy it, guys. Thanks everyone.
So much. Bye-bye.